Discover the heartwarming truth. What I overheard at my daughter-in-law's home changed everything. Bob felt like an outsider in his own family as he stood in the dim corner of the living room, gripped by a sense of invisibility. The shouts of joyful children filled the air, balloons danced against the walls, and the scent of cake wafted from the kitchen. But within him brewed an inner storm, fueled by anxiety and an aching need to provide. Today was his granddaughter's birthday, a time for celebration, yet he felt as if he was in a world far removed from the genuine happiness surrounding him. As laughter rang out, Bob's heart tightened. He thought of all the hours spent under the hood of cars, grease-stained hands, and sleepless nights. He had always been the foundation of this family, yet it weighed heavy on him, the economic struggle, the judgmental glances from others in town who whispered behind his back. This day, he felt the burden of his work like a lead weight on his chest, suffocating his spirit. Bob wandered further into the crowd, trying to blend in, but the whispers of children's joy only deepened his loneliness. He caught sight of Sarah, his daughter-in-law, her eyes sparkling as she turned to greet friends and family. She embodied the energy of the party, grinning from ear to ear. Yet, her laughter faded into the background as Bob began to overhear a conversation between her and her mother. "It's so hard, you know? With the bills piling up and everything." Sarah's voice quivered, as her mother nodded in understanding. Bob's blood ran cold. He wasn't just a mechanic, he was a father, a grandfather. They were discussing him, discussing the strain his job put on their dreams, the American dream they all yearned for. Pain swelled in his chest as he overheard, "Sometimes I wonder if we'll ever escape this cycle. Can we really make it?" As the words sank in, shame flooded through Bob. How could he look his family in the eyes after hearing this? He hardly felt like a man, a provider, a protector. Just then, a neighboring family friend stepped in. "Bob, still turning wrenches, huh? Guess that's where all the money is these days." Laughter erupted, not from Bob, but from those around him. The knife of judgment twisted deeper. Bob could feel his face flush with inadequacy. "I'm proud of what I do," he muttered under his breath, struggling to hold back a flood of emotion. Suddenly, it was as if the laughter faded, and the balloons fell silent, the bright decorations a mockery of his internal chaos. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue." Amidst the swirling emotions, something flickered in Bob's heart, a glimmer of hope. As he stepped outside for air, he paused to absorb the chaotic scene within, kids running, older siblings chasing, Sarah's laughter ringing out like a bell. Whatever misgivings he felt about his job, he was still their center, but outside, a sudden rush hit him when he overheard another conversation. "Did you hear about Sarah? She's been volunteering at that charity for families in need." The proud reflection in her eyes when she spoke of it brought warmth to his heart. Though he felt undervalued in his role, he recognized her kindness, the silent contribution she made, proof that love could transcend economic troubles. As the light dimmed, leaving only the glow of the fading candles, he felt that weight begin to lift. The tension in him swelled, ready to burst. Would he stand up, let go of the burdens, and embrace what truly mattered? With that, the emotional crossroads loomed. Where would his journey unfold next? Bob took a deep breath, the cool evening air filling his lungs. For a moment, the sounds of the party faded away, laughter, music, chatter all drowned out by his thoughts. He shifted his gaze to the sky, where the first stars began to blink into existence, tiny bright lights poking through the canvas of deepening blue. A sudden gust of wind tugged at him, and he felt a stirring deep within. What if he stepped back inside, not just to be a bystander to the joy, but to dive into it? After all, he was more than a mechanic. He was a grandfather, a father, a proud man. Shoved down deep were his insecurities, But perhaps it was time to rise above them. He took a few steps back inside, the warmth wrapping around him like a blanket. Sarah was at the center of the room, her laughter infectious. Children swarmed her, eager to open presents and enjoy the cake. The sight brought a smile to Bob's face. "Grandpa!" shouted Lucy, his granddaughter, eyes wide as she raced to him. Her energy was a force of nature as she launched into his embrace. Bob knelt to catch her, lifting her into the air. "Happy birthday, Lucy!" he exclaimed, holding her high. The joy in her eyes mirrored the flicker of hope that had ignited in his heart. At that moment, it didn't matter how much money he made, or the whispers that haunted him. What mattered was the love he felt radiating from her. "Look what I got!" Lucy squealed, her hands waving a brightly wrapped present. Bob set her down, his heart swelling with pride. As she dug into her gifts, Bob felt a weight lift, if only slightly. As he watched, the children gathered around Sarah, pleading to hear her stories of adventures, tales of how she had helped those in need with donations and warm meals. It was clear that Sarah had become a beacon of light. "Everyone loves you, Sarah," he called out across the room, earning a surprised glance from her. "You're doing such good work for these families." She smiled, the sparkle in her eyes reflecting gratitude and warmth. She had poured herself into something that mattered, that connected them all. In that moment, Bob felt a connection form, linking them through the hardship and the love they shared. It struck him he could contribute too. Maybe it was time to embrace the strength within him, to step out of the shadows and be a part of their world, not just as a partner, but as a mentor. "Maybe I can help with that charity," he thought, excitement bubbling inside him. "I could fix cars for those families or offer workshops to teach skills." His resolve strengthened, Bob moved closer to Sarah. It was clear now that his worth wasn't measured in dollars but in love, kindness, and intent to support them all. Just as he approached her, ready to voice his thoughts, he caught a glimpse of the crowd gathering near the cake. An unexpected hush fell over the room. With a spark of curiosity, he turned to see what had captured everyone's attention. Across the room, a stranger stood, holding a small package. The whispers began to ripple through the crowd. "What's happening?" they murmured. As the stranger stepped closer, Bob felt a knot of anticipation form in his stomach. Who was this person? What surprise did they bring? And as the stranger smiled, possibly about to unveil something extraordinary, Bob's heart raced. Could this moment change everything once again? As the stranger took a few more steps forward, holding the small package delicately, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The shadows of uncertainty faded as the flickering candlelight caught the glint of their warm smile. People turned their attention, curiosity mingling with excitement as they exchanged quiet whispers. Who are they? Bob wondered, feeling the ground beneath him pulse with expectation. When the stranger reached the front, they cleared their throat, and the room grew still. "Hello everyone," the stranger began, their voice steady yet inviting. "My name is Alex, and I have something very special to share with you tonight." With careful hands, Alex unveiled the package, revealing an intricately designed box. A hush fell over the crowd, eyes wide like saucers. Bob could see Lucy in the front row, her little hands clasped together, anticipation written all over her face. Inside the box, nestled in soft fabric, was a beautiful, hand-painted ornament that glimmered like a beacon in the glow of the party lights. "This ornament represents hope and kindness," Alex explained, "and it was crafted by children in our program as a way to give back to those who have helped them throughout the year." Gasps of awe rippled through the audience, and Bob felt his heart swell with warmth. Sarah's eyes sparkled brighter than ever as she leaned forward, taking in every word. "Each ornament carries a story, an act of kindness for someone in need," Alex continued. "And tonight, we delight to honor our wonderful community by gifting one of these ornaments to someone who embodies the spirit of generosity and support." The spotlight seemed to shine brighter against Bob's chest as Alex's gaze swept over the room, pausing briefly on him. A flutter of nerves danced in his stomach. Was he somehow included in their proclamation? He couldn't remember ever being recognized like that. And that person is Sarah. The name rang out clear and true, a jubilant whistle of joy escaping the lips of the partygoers. The room erupted into applause as those present celebrated the woman who had championed their cause. Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes as she made her way to accept the ornament. The joy on her face, the overwhelming pride that radiated from each clap and cheer, they fused together to form an electric aura in the room. Bob felt an inexplicable urge to join her, to bask in that shared recognition, but before he could rise, Alex continued. But there's more. The stranger's voice cut through the applause, capturing everyone's attention once again. In honor of Sarah's hard work, the children and I have decided to establish a workshop where we can teach essential skills to families in need. Skills that can uplift and empower. The room buzzed with excitement, but Bob felt an intensity flare inside him. Was this the moment he had been waiting for? This is where he could make a difference. His heartbeat quickened at the possibility of joining hands with Sarah, stepping into the daylight, and sharing what he knew. As Sarah turned back, clutching the ornament with trembling fingers, her voice wavered. This is amazing, Alex. Thank you so much. In that moment, Bob decided. He rushed forward, determination blazing in his eyes. Can I join? I want to help mentor those families, teach them about cars, about fixing things. The room fell silent again, and all attention turned toward him. In that heartbeat of expectation, he knew he was crossing a threshold, stepping into something transformative. Alex's smile widened. Of course, we could use all the help we can get. But, just then, as the cheers erupted around him, Bob felt a shadow flicker across the doorway. Someone had entered quietly, but their presence wrapped around him like ice. The familiar face sent shivers down his spine. Why were they here now? What could that mean for everything that had just begun? Bob's heart raced as he turned slowly toward the door. The figure standing there, draped in shadows and uncertainty, was none other than Jake, his estranged brother. Their last encounter still stung in Bob's memory, a series of harsh words thrown during a heated argument, the kind that left scars. Why now? Bob whispered to himself, fighting against the swell of emotions threatening to overtake him. A wave of confusion washed over the room as whispers rippled through the crowd. Alex, noticing the shift in the atmosphere, turned to face Jake. Is everything all right? Alex asked, concern etching their features. I just came to find Bob, Jake said, his voice uncertain. Bob felt the air thicken, the joyous energy of the celebration dimmed by tension. He looked at Sarah, who still beamed with pride, holding the ornament close as if it were begging her to believe that everything would be all right. Why do you want me? Bob replied, trying to keep his voice steady, though betrayal lurked in every syllable. After all this time? A moment of deafening silence engulfed the gathering, the excitement that had been bubbling moments before now replaced by a fragile stillness. Jake stepped further into the room, his hands raised defensively as if he were trying to ward off rejection. I know I messed up, Jake admitted, taking a hesitant step forward. I came to apologize. And I heard about the workshop you're starting. I want to help. Laughter and applause faded into a backdrop of murmur and disbelief. You? Help? Bob couldn't help the bitter edge in his voice. The very thought felt impossible, as if the universe had decided to play a cruel trick on him. Please, Bob. I'm serious. I've changed, Jake pleaded, his eyes softening with vulnerability. I see that this community is growing, and you're part of something beautiful here. I want to be a part of that too, if you'll let me. The weight of silence bore down on Bob. One glance at Sarah told him she felt that weight too. He caught a glimpse of Lucy's wide eyes, sparkling with a blend of confusion and hope. The warmth and joy of the moment dimmed slightly as Bob wrestled with his feelings. Could he even consider allowing his brother back into his life? Would Jake really stay true to his word? Yet, in that moment, amidst the confluence of emotions and the calls for unity, Bob's resolve wavered. What if helping Jake meant healing himself, breaking the cycle of anger that had woven itself into their family story. "Okay," Bob finally managed, his voice a whisper among the crowd. "If you're serious, if you really want to help, then I'll give you a chance." A collective gasp emanated from the crowd, quickly replaced by tentative applause. But as they cheered, that icy dread settled deeper within him. He was taking a step towards forgiveness, but at what cost? Before he could lose himself in those thoughts, another shadow fell over the doorway, causing his heart to race anew. "Did I hear someone call for help?" A voice, smooth and chilling, echoed through the room. Bob shivered, recognizing that tone all too well. What was happening? Would this celebration turn into chaos? Bob's pulse quickened as he turned to face the newcomer. The room seemed to shrink around him, gasping collectively, as if caught in a shared breath of disbelief. The figure framed in the doorway wore a wide smile that didn't reach his eyes, a smile that felt more like a mask hiding something sinister. "Derek," Bob said through clenched teeth, recognizing the man who had been a thorn in his side for as long as he could remember. Derek was the type of person who thrived in chaos, feeding off the drama he created. "Thought I'd drop by," Derek replied, stepping into the dim light, his tone faux casual. "Heard there was a little family reunion happening. Looks festive." Bob felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Hopes for a warm reunion shattered like glass. Alex, sensing the tension escalating again, instinctively moved closer to Bob. "Derek, this isn't the time," Alex tried to interject, but Derek waved off their concern. "Why not? The party just got a whole lot more interesting, don't you think?" He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed smugly. "Besides, I came to congratulate you on your little workshop idea, Bob. Quite the ambition." "Thanks, but I don't think you're on the guest list," Bob shot back, irritation boiling under the surface. "Oh, but I'm just here to lend a hand. Surely your brother Jake could use some guidance." Jake bristled at the insinuation, stepping up to Bob's side. "I don't need help from the likes of you, Derek." "Cute. You're still expecting everyone to play nice after all this time?" Derek planted his hands on his hips, eyes darting between the two brothers. "You both think you can just sweep everything under the rug and pretend that family issues vanish like poof. There's always a reckoning." "Shut up!" Bob shouted. The words echoed in the silent room, sending shockwaves through the crowd. Sarah's expression flickered with concern, while Lucy's eyes widened further, reflecting the chaos brewing in their small community. Derek's amused smirk widened. TSK. Your temper hasn't changed a bit, Bob? Isn't it exhausting carrying all that anger?" Before Bob could respond, a sudden flash caught his eye. A woman at the edge of the room, fidgeting and looking decidedly uncomfortable. It was Maria, the workshop coordinator. Her face was pale, and she looked from Bob and Jake to Derek and back again, her breaths coming in quick gulps. "Maria?" Bob called out, prying his focus away from Derek. "What's wrong?" I overheard something," Maria stammered, hesitating. The tension rose again as all eyes shifted towards her. "I think you need to know before things go any further." Her voice trembled, and Bob could almost feel the weight of every secret slipping through her fingers like water. "Spit it out," Derek prodded, eager to stoke the fire. Maria swallowed hard, then blurted, "Derek, he's not just here for fun. He knows something about the workshop and about your family. Something you don't want to hear." Gasps filled the air, a swell of confused murmurs rising up. Bob's heart raced. What was she talking about? "Leave it alone, Maria. You don't want to meddle," Derek warned, but her defiance lit a flicker of hope in Bob. "Tell us," Bob urged, desperately wanting to know what twisted revelation was coming. Before Maria could respond, the atmosphere shifted. The sound of shattering glass joined the tension. Someone spilled their drink, and suddenly all eyes were on the floor, where the shards reflected flickering lights. In that moment, everything teetered on the edge of chaos where family secrets thrashed against the surface, ready to break free. What could be the hidden truth that threatened to unravel everything? Could Bob face what lay behind the walls of silence? The air was heavy with unspoken words that begged to be spoken. As the shards scattered across the floor, silence blanketed the room. The laughter that had once shimmered in the air vanished, replaced by the sound of a heart pounding in Bob's chest. Maria stood frozen, fear etching lines across her brow. The anxious glances darting around the room weren't lost on Derek, who basked in the disarray like a cat amongst startled mice. Bob felt his palms sweat, his mind racing as the conversations playing in his head became a chaotic whirlwind. What did Derek know? Maria, he urged, stepping closer, his voice edged with urgency. What do you mean? What does Derek know? She hesitated, her eyes flitting towards Derek, as if he could somehow snatch away her courage. I heard him talking outside. Her voice wavered, but then she found her footing. He was boasting about his connections. He knows things about the funding, about the workshop, things that could hurt you. Bob felt the blood drain from his face. His dreams of building a community for the kids hinged on that funding. It wasn't just about a workshop, it was about hope. Lies, Derek interjected, his smile fading. You're believing this? She's just trying to cause trouble. No. Maria cried, and for the first time, she squared her shoulders, determination shining in her eyes. I wouldn't say this if it wasn't true, Bob. Please, you need to listen. Bob's heart beat like a drum. The revelation hung heavily in the air, the threat palpable. Everyone shifted uneasily, some staring at Derek with disbelief while others gave glances of sympathy toward Maria. What are you planning, Derek? Jake stepped forward, fists clenched. This isn't a game to us. Derek shrugged, the corners of his mouth twitching upwards in a mocking grin. Oh, come on, it's just business. If you can't see that, maybe you shouldn't be in the workshop game. His gaze flicked over the group, drawing lines between them and him, casting them as the weak. Bob felt a surge of anger rise in his throat. It was one thing to threaten his dreams, but to toy with his family was crossing a line. You think we'll let you get away with whatever scheme you have? You're not invincible, Derek. We're stronger together, and we won't let you tear us apart. The energy in the room shifted. It was subtle but undeniable. Lucy, standing beside Alex, exchanged a glance. Others began to murmur softly, emboldened by Bob's defiance, but Derek's twisted smile returned, unsettling and predatory. You'll regret standing against me, Bob. I'm not to be trifled with. He paused, letting the threat hang in the air like dark smoke. Just remember, family secrets have a way of coming out. And you might not like what happens when they do. With that, he stepped back, turning away from the group, leaving a chill in his wake. The crowd held its breath, the tension twisting around them like an unseen force. What does he mean? Sarah finally whispered, voice barely carrying. Bob's gut churned. The air felt thick, and he glanced at Maria, whose eyes mirrored his unease. Whatever it is, it needs to come out, and we need to prepare for whatever's coming. He turned to face his family, the remnants of fear combated by rising resolve. We stand together. Whatever secrets he holds, we'll face them as a family. But deep down, dread etched itself into the corners of his mind. What if Derek was right? What if the truth was worse than they could ever imagine? Just then, the front door swung open again, this time revealing another shadow flanked by light. Is everything okay in here? The familiar voice sent a ripple of uncertainty through Bob. It was his father, standing there, the weight of time and unspoken words all lingering in the air. What are you doing here? Bob demanded, feeling his pulse quicken once more. He could sense it, the anticipation of secrets ready to spill like an open wound. What's going on? His father pressed, eyes narrowing as he delayed answering the question posed by the atmosphere. In that moment, Bob knew that the revelations ahead would shake the foundation of everything they thought they knew. Would they be able to withstand the truth once it was unearthed? Bob took a shaky breath, locking eyes with his father. The tension in the room was a taut wire, ready to snap. "Derek he just threatened us," he said, words tumbling out in a rush. "He knows things about the funding. He's trying to intimidate us." His father's expression shifted from confusion to anger, a fierce look Bob had seen only a handful of times in his life. "I knew he was trouble the moment I laid eyes on him," he said, stepping further into the room. "That kid thinks he can play with people's lives." Maria's resolve faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. "It's not just idle talk, Mr. Thompson. He's aligned with people who could ruin everything we've built." Derek's mocking laughter echoed in Bob's head. Family secrets. He clenched his fists, the very mention of Derek's name igniting a fire in him. His father took a step closer, his voice lowering, dripping with seriousness. "What kind of secrets are we talking about?" Before Bob could respond, Derek's face flickered through his mind. The predatory smile, the veiled threats. It was like a puzzle, each missing piece connecting to a bigger, more terrifying picture. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "But if he's right, then the funding, our workshop, it's all at risk," Maria finished, her eyes wide with determination. "We need to address this head-on. We can't let him win." The room buzzed with uncertainty, but there was also the quiet hum of solidarity amidst the chaos. Lucy squeezed Alex's hand, deciding then and there that fear wouldn't guide their choices. Bob's mind raced with thoughts. What about the other families? They need to be involved. He looked at Maria, who nodded, her belief in their cause fueling his own courage. "We have to rally everyone together. Derek can't do this alone." "Agreed," his father replied with intensity. "We need to confront Derek and expose whatever dirt he thinks he has. If he has evidence, let us show everyone that it's fabricated." The door creaked squeakily as a couple of neighbors, drawn by the tension, slipped inside, uncertainty plastered across their faces. Jake raised an eyebrow. "We talking about Derek?" Bob could feel the weight of their collective fear, but also their hope sparking into life. "Yeah, but we're not going to let him intimidate us anymore." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, washing over them like a wave. It was electric, a palpable reminder that they stood as a community. They were family, and together, they could face whatever storm lay ahead. Then, abruptly, silence fell as the front door creaked open once more. Derek reappeared, but this time, there was no bravado in his demeanor. He stood there, a figure caught between arrogance and fear, as if the intensity of their resolve reached out, wrapping around him. "What's going on, everyone?" he called out, his voice falsely innocent, but a flicker of uncertainty danced behind his eyes. Bob exchanged glances filled with understanding with his father and Maria. The atmosphere thickened, a brewing storm ready to unleash its fury. "We know what you're up to, Derek," Bob declared, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "And together, we're going to stop you." Derek's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold calculation. "You're playing a dangerous game, Bob," he warned, lips twisting into a sinister grin. But in that moment, confidence surged through Bob. It was time to unearth the truth, and he didn't know where it would lead them. But one thing was certain, they were not backing down. As Derek retreated, Bob felt the eyes of his family and friends on him, a collective heartbeat of resolve echoing in the air. "What now?" Maria asked, her voice a blend of apprehension and hope. Bob took a deep breath, ready to turn the page on their story. In a way, it began with Derek's arrival. But would it end with freedom, or would they uncover something darker lurking in their past? The answer lingered just out of reach, waiting for them to dive deeper into the unraveling truth. After all, the scariest secrets were often buried the deepest. Bob's heart raced as Derek's warning echoed in his ears. He could feel the anticipation in the room, a mix of fear and courage swelled with each passing moment. What Derek had just declared, it was heavy. This wasn't a game anymore, it was personal. He glanced at his father, who was already deep in thought, fists clenched at his sides. "We need to stay sharp," his father said, a determined glint in his eye. "He's unpredictable, and we can't let our guard down." Bob nodded, knowing his father had weathered storms before. They all had. Maria stepped forward, her voice steady. "If we're going to confront him, we need to gather information. We need to know exactly what he's capable of. Derek has been lurking around neighborhoods, talking to other families," Alex piped up, his youthful voice cutting through the tension. "I overheard him bragging about knowing things that could take our workshop down." Bob could feel his stomach churn. What was Derek promising them? Lies? Manipulation? "We can't let him spread more fear like that," he said, glancing around the room at the group growing more resolute. "Let us get our facts straight. If he's out there painting us as villains, we have to flip the script." Jake, standing at the back, raised his hand. "What if we recorded our conversations with him? Exposed him?" "That could backfire," Maria quickly cautioned. "We need to be careful. We're dealing with someone who plays dirty." Bob shot her a grateful look, her pragmatism balanced his impulsive ideas. "You're right. Let us examine what we can dig up first. If we find anything solid, we'll confront him with it." An overwhelming buzz filled the room, the energy shifting as everyone leaned in closer, sharing ideas and connections they'd had with Derek. It felt almost ceremonial, a gathering of minds against a common adversary. But intertwined with their resolve was a gnawing worry. What if Derek had allies? What if they weren't prepared for what lay ahead? As the discussion swirled, a desperate thought floated through Bob's mind. What if they couldn't beat him at his own game? He shuddered at the thought of losing everything they'd fought for. Then came a soft knock at the door, halting their frenzy. Everyone froze. The tension returned like an unwelcome guest. Bob's father pushed the door open, revealing Mrs. Jenkins, an elder with a reputation for knowing everything that happened in the neighborhood. "Excuse me for intruding," she said, her voice a tight whisper. "I overheard some troubling things." A hush fell over the group. "You can't say he's dangerous for no reason," Bob drew in a breath, desperation edging his voice. "What do you know, Mrs. Jenkins?" "He's been asking questions, digging into your family's past, Bob," she replied, looking each of them in the eye. "Promising people he can keep their businesses safe if they turn on you." Bob's heart sank. Derek was creating a divide. For everyone to turn against him was the worst nightmare. "How can we break this cycle?" he asked, feeling helpless. She glanced around, her gaze landing on Maria, filled with respectful warmth. "You protect what you love and you face it head-on. You get stronger together or risk letting him tear you apart." Bob felt the words penetrate his armor of bravado, cracking the shell. He looked at his friends and family, gathering the strength in their eyes, the pride, the love. "Right then," his father said, determination creeping back into his tone. "We build our defenses. We remind our neighbors why they trust us. We keep Derek on the outskirts." But Bob felt the gnawing uncertainty still looming, as shadows of their past began unveiling themselves. What secrets did Derek know about them? As he stepped forward, he knew the confrontation was inevitable. They were on the brink of a battle that would either strengthen their bond or expose cracks better left hidden. "Derek might know about us," Bob said, the weight of the truth creeping in. "But he doesn't know our strength. Tomorrow, we confront him again. We'll stand together." But what new secrets might he reveal? The air crackled within. Intensity of emotion, hope collided with apprehension. Each word swung like a pendulum, marking time with urgency. They were about to find out if their solidarity was enough or if some secrets were too powerful to bury. Tomorrow would be the day they unmasked the truth. But what else would it unveil? The sun broke through the morning haze, painting the neighborhood in soft hues of gold. Bob woke with an anxious knot in his stomach. He glanced at the clock, it was time to face Derek. He took a deep breath, struggling to steady his racing heart. Today would set the tone for everything that followed. In the kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. His father was already seated, stirring his mug, eyes fixated on the newspaper spread across the table. "You ready for this?" he asked without looking up. Bob nodded, but the uncertainty laced through his response. He grabbed a mug and sat across from his father. "Do you think we truly know what we're up against?" His father finally looked at him, brows furrowed. "We have to trust in ourselves, Bob. We've faced challenges before. This one just requires more vigilance." Maria peeked into the room, her presence shedding warmth. "We've got your back," she said, her voice steady like a lighthouse beam piercing through the morning fog. "Together, right?" "Together," Bob echoed, finding a flicker of courage in her words. They made their way out, determination igniting as they approached the park where Derek had planned to meet them. The swaying trees and chirping birds were sharp contrasts to the storm brewing in Bob's heart. He focused on his friends, their unity offering strength. They were walking into a potential minefield, and the ground felt unsteady beneath them. When they arrived at the park, Bob scanned the area. Derek leaned against a battered old tree, arms crossed, a smug grin plastered on his face. The sight brought a surge of indignation. This was the man who was threatening everything they held dear. "So glad you could join me," Derek drawled, eyes flitting over the group as if appraising a prize. "I've been looking forward to our little chat." Bob stepped forward, fists clenched. "We know what you're doing, Derek. Spreading lies, creating fear. It ends here." Derek chuckled, completely unfazed. "Lies? The truth is a much more powerful weapon, my friend. And trust me, I have the truth on my side. Do you even listen to yourself?" Alex's voice cracked through the tension, youthful anger rising. "This isn't just a game. Isn't it?" Derek replied, a wicked glint in his eye. "You see weakness where there's none. Your little workshop isn't the fortress you think it is. People talk." "Enough!" Bob shouted, cheeks flushed with adrenaline. "You can't threaten our family. You don't understand what we're willing to do to protect each other." Derek leaned in, his voice lowering, dripping with malicious amusement. "Oh, but I do. I've heard things, Bob. Depending on how you play your cards, you could lose more than just your workshop. You could lose everything you hold dear." A collective dread washed over the group, but Bob fought it down. He wouldn't give in to this. They came here to fight, not to flinch. With renewed clarity, Maria took a step forward. "You think you've got all the secrets," she said, her voice unwavering. "But we know what's important. Our strength comes from love, loyalty, and trust. You can't break that." Derek's expression flickered, but it quickly morphed back into arrogance. "We'll see, won't we? I have plans, and they're already in motion. Don't forget, I can strike where it hurts most." Transitioning from anger to resolve, Bob raised a hand, cutting him off. "We'll fight. We'll expose you for who you are. You may think you control this, but you're mistaken." He felt a wave of support behind him, fingers gently touching his back, voices rising in solidarity. This was not just a confrontation, it was a declaration of their unity. "Then let the games begin," Derek replied, straightening up, eyes unreadable. But as he walked away, something deep within Bob shifted. Doubt festered, that gnawing fear taking root. What if Derek held secrets that could splinter their bond, tearing at the very fabric of their community? "Now what do we do?" Jake asked, anxiety creeping into his words. "We need to uncover his truths before he can use them against us," Bob said, determination firming again. "And we'll do it together." As they turned to leave, the weight of the confrontation sunk deep within them. The road ahead was unclear and fraught with scope for darkness. What secrets lay hidden, and how could they prepare for an uncertain confrontation with a man who played for keeps? A chill crept in, setting Bob's heart to race again. It was just the beginning, but the complexity of emotions surrounding their fight left him uneasy. Is Derek truly as dangerous as he makes himself out to be? Bob thought, worry swirling in the pit of his stomach. What was lurking beneath his charade? And what truths awaited them in their quest to confront the lurking darkness? The sun set low, casting long shadows across the backyard where laughter and joy had once rung, but now hung heavy in the air. The gathering was no longer exhilarating, it had turned into a battleground of emotions. Bob sat quietly on the steps, his heart pounding as the storm gathered within him. He could sense the storm clouds of conflict looming on the horizon. Derek had rattled a cage that Bob had fought hard to keep closed. A fragment of anger surged in him. The memories of laughter, the visions of Lucy's bright smile, they fueled his determination. I won't let him tear us apart. Just as hope dangled precariously, the door creaked open. Sarah stepped out, her face a mixture of concern and understanding. Bob, she started softly, taking a seat beside him. What are we going to do? I don't know, he admitted, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on his chest. But we can't let Derek intimidate us. We have to fight back. The certainty of his words seemed to shatter like glass, though. Inside, fear gnawed. What if Derek held the secrets that could destroy everything? I saw how strong everyone was when we stood together, she replied, warmth radiating from her, her hand resting comfortingly on his. You know what we have to do? We expose him for who he is. Right, Bob nodded, their united front congealing as the words settled in. If we're going to strengthen our community, it means uniting everyone against him. We'll gather all the evidence, all the truths, and then we confront him as a family. They shared a moment of silence, the weight of unspoken fears hanging in the air, until a resolution surged within him. I'll call everyone, he said, feeling the power of unity surging back. This isn't just my fight, it's all of ours. With determination fueling his steps, Bob sprang into action. The phone calls, hard to make, filled with urgency, echoed through the conversations, rattling the nerves, but with each call, strength poured back into him, a reminder that love was greater than fear. As the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating the sky in vibrant hues, people began arriving one by one, each bringing their own stories, their own fears, and their hearts ready to connect. Neighbors gathered in circles, whispered murmurs thickening the air with tension and solidarity. Together, they listened as Bob and Sarah shared their plans to fight back, to expose Derek's deceitful schemes. Together, Bob said, we'll be a force. We'll remind everyone of our worth. The room filled with resolute nods, a wave of energy rippling through the group, their concerns mingling into a shared determination. Let us gather evidence and spread the word, Maria chimed, determination shining in her eyes. The more we share, the stronger our community becomes. Each contribution, every insight, molded a new understanding of what they had to protect. They pinned photographs on a board, piecing a puzzle together, unraveling connections between Derek and the whispers of doubt that floated like shadows in their town. Just then, an unexpected knock startled everyone, silence enveloping the room. Bob exchanged glances with Sarah, unease rippling through the group. Apprehension lingered in the air as footsteps approached the door. When it swung open, it revealed Mrs. Jenkins again, her eyes bright with urgency. I have something you need to know about Derek, she rushed in, breaths hitching. All ears turned to her, holding their breath. He's been talking to families about you. Telling them lies. But I heard him mention something significant, plans he has for the community. We can't let this pass. Bob felt the flame inside him flare brightly. What kind of plans? He asked, pulse quickening in anticipation. Something sinister, he's stirring turmoil. I can help you collect evidence against him. We have to confront him before he pits us against each other. Hope surged as the group rallied together, thoughts shifting and spilling into an electrifying energy. The strength renewed as they worked hand in hand, inspired by the camaraderie that blossomed in the heart of adversity. Yet, the night grew darker, and with it, the shadows of uncertainty lingered. They strategized, shared contacts, and forged a united front that glimmered stronger than ever before. Bob felt the unyielding heartbeat of community course through their voices. Each shared laugh and resolved voice stitched a bond that wove deeper than they had known. As they settled down for the evening, exhaustion washed over them, but hope hovered in the air, buoying spirits. They knew what they would face tomorrow, confronting Derek and unearthing his deceit. With a determined breath, Bob whispered into the night, "We're ready." The next day dawned with a golden, fierce sun, illuminating their home once more. Bob stood at the center of his kitchen, surrounded by friends, family, and even strangers who felt like family now. He could see their eyes shining with resolve. The fear of Derek was now trivial compared to the strength they carried together. They moved toward Derek's doorstep like a river, steadfast and united, hearts thumping in unison, ready to unveil the truth. Summoning all their courage, they knocked in unison, a powerful declaration echoing in the stillness. When Derek opened the door, surprise flickered across his face, only to morph swiftly into that customary smirk. Bob met his gaze head-on. "We know what you've been doing. We're not afraid of you anymore." The confidence in his voice resonated far beyond his words. "Is that so?" Derek scoffed, crossing his arms, but the glimmer of uncertainty hinted beneath his bravado. "Oh, it is." Maria stepped forward, her voice strong and unwavering. "We're here to confront you, to unveil the truths you think you still control." The excitement electrified the air, but Bob felt a sense of calm wash over him. Whatever Derek thought he had, they were stronger together. Family stood beside family, and the love woven through their unity would outshine any darkness Derek so desperately tried to cast. "Let the truth settle," Bob added, the corners of his eyes glinting with determination. "We will protect each other, and we'll find a way to win this fight." As they stood together, unfurling their collective courage, they were ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. Because love was the strongest weapon they had. And perhaps, just perhaps, it could finally allow them to break free. This is the moment. You need to subscribe now to catch the next chapter of this incredible journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let them know we're here to stay. Don't hesitate to comment your thoughts and feelings about this amazing ending. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Stand with us, your support creates change. Don't wait not even one more second, let us reshape this story together.